Welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. This podcast is a production of Elevate, an online learning platform for fundraising event professionals. We're coming to you today from the studios of the AV department. Please welcome our hosts, Kristin Steele and Samantha Swaim.
Hello, and welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. Today, we have like a year in review, what's ahead prediction episode for everyone. Kristin and I are going to sort of lay out our thoughts about the state of fundraising events for 2025. I feel like it's a changing world. A lot is happening quickly.
Yep.
I think that, we try to plan ahead often and be way ahead of schedule on event plans and thinking about our fundraising goals for the year. But this year in particular, I feel like it's important to call in some of the experts.
Yep.
So we did a deep dive. We have a lot of research to share.
We do.
Everyone should get their pen and paper ready so that as you're thinking about fundraising events for the year ahead, that you have some basic tips and thoughts about where we're headed, but also some sort of predictions and resources to lean into. I think that, it's a time of big news stories. So our hope is to kind of create some resource for folks. And we have one big resource coming up that I want to start with. We're going to pepper it throughout the episode and talk about it a couple of times. And that is the Elevate Conference.
Yep.
So the Elevate Conference is a 2-day fundraising event conference. It is March 12th and 13th of 2025. It is a hybrid event. So our listeners that are tuning in from all over the world can join us in a virtual format. You can register to tune in online, or you can join us in person.
Yep.
It's held in Portland, Oregon, and is a 2-day deep dive where the in-person audience does get the benefit of actually meeting some vendors and other resources and talking directly to our teachers and trainers. But the event is really event school. It's like 101 with the experts. They're coming in and doing a deep dive into what are fundraising events now, how are they evolving, what are the tools that you need, and how do you raise more money at your fundraising events. So we hope everyone will join us. We want you to go to www.swaimstrategies.com to check it out. And in this new year, we have some new news ourselves, which is the Swaim Strategies website is all new.
Yep.
It is updated with a whole bunch of new resources for folks. We wanted to make sure this was a year that you had a ton of resources. So on that website, while you are checking out the conference, Elevate 2025, we want you also to click around because there are free webinars. You can find a free training on just about anything having to do with your fundraising event. You also will find our book, the Major Donor Fundraising event Training Manual that we created. And you will find access to be able to connect with us directly. We want to help you with your fundraising event this year. So reach out, let us know how we can support you. So big resource for 2025. But 2025, we expect that fundraising events will continue to really evolve with an integration of new technology, sustainability, and an increased focus on community engagement. So we're going to dive into some tips today. But also, we're living in this time of really big change, evolution, big headlines that can all create this sense of sort of rapid changes coming and uncertainty ahead. So today we want to talk about how those trends can help inform you for the year, help you to feel like you're operating on some stable ground, help to build some resilience, and help you to work confidently in anticipation. So we're excited to talk about kind of what the year ahead looks like.
We are. And I think as much as we want a magic 8 ball that is 100% correct all of the time, our goal today is to provide you scaffolding to keep moving forward regardless.
Yes.
I think often we wait to, quote, see what's going to happen. We're in it. We're doing it.
Yeah.
You're heading into spring fundraising events, you should be planning fall fundraising events. All of those pieces should be moving forward. So our hope today is to get some tools in your hands, trends, reports, numbers more than we usually do because those are important metrics for constituents and decision makers sometimes moving forward.
Absolutely.
So when you're coming forward with a bold idea, let's say a hybrid event, we want you to have some of the scaffolding to be able to go and have that conversation versus, I don't know, let's just try it. It feels like that might be a good idea for us.
Right.
So we want to equip you. All of these will be in the show notes. take notes, but we'll have links to the reports that we can there so that you can go in and access those. This has the potential to be sort of a destabilizing time in terms of waiting, and we want people to keep moving forward, capitalize on your momentum, keep your mission moving forward. It's important. The work you're doing is important. The people you're helping is important. So let's start big picture.
Okay.
Before we dive into events specifically, let's talk about fundraising space, the fundraising space in general. Sam, what do you think is going to happen in the next few months? We're having this conversation in the beginning of January. This airs toward the end of January 2025. Right. So as much as you can with that magic 8 ball, what are your thoughts about fundraising in general?
Well, I think that there's actually 2 past history things that we can pull on. So when the pandemic hit, I think it was a moment of surprise that there wasn't a lot of preparation and rules were being rolled out so quickly and changing so quickly that it became very hard to plan the day-to-day and hard to plan how you were going to gather people. So I think we can look back on that and think about, okay, if we get big news again that says, you have to change how you're doing everything, how can we be a little bit more resilient and prepared for that? So the first thing that I turned to is actually a report and a little research study that was done at the beginning of COVID by our friends Steven Screen from Better Fundraising, and he partnered up with another consultant, Jeff Brooks, and they did a quick deep dive into other points of history where we have seen a pause in day-to-day life, where we have seen things have to shift to better understand how to predict what was ahead. And their chart that they developed absolutely played out. So what they saw was that there would be an increase of responsive giving, right? There would be folks that say, I want to help in response to the fire. I want to help in response to a new law being implemented. And there would be this increase of giving. In those times, it was a COVID response increase of giving, right? And then there would be this, we all as a community need to think differently about our resources, and we're going to pull in and giving is going to decline. But through that, the fundraisers and the nonprofits that continue to maintain relationships, keep donors up to date, keep donors in conversation, keep asking, would see that decline pretty rapidly start to shift, and they would actually see their giving continue on a long, steady incline. And so you would have this increase, this drop, and then this flatten out that had this slight rise to it. And in the end, when we would get through the moment of crisis, which I think for the pandemic lockdown lasted a couple of years for folks, that at the end of that, we would see that the organizations who put a hold on their giving, put a hold on their donor relationships, would no longer be sustained and would no longer be around. And that was true. About 14% of nonprofits closed. But the other nonprofits that continued asking, continued building relationships, actually came out of COVID more financially sound, right? More fiscally sound. So I think that we might see that happen a couple of times. And to me, the message there is continue building the relationships, continue bringing your people into your work, continue inviting them in. Even if at that time you're getting a lot of no's, there will be a shift where people come back. So I think that relationships are the number one thing that we need to continue to maintain. And then the other thing that I expect is we're going to see a spike of rage giving again. This happened back, election after election after election. We've seen organizations, especially organizations that protect social justice work and protect rights, will see an increase of rage giving. If you are one of those organizations, think about staffing up. Think about how you're going to prepare your responses. Think about how you're going to continue to respond to donors coming through those doors, maybe in a short time period. Having some volunteer teams that can be ready for donor thanks and call banks and appreciation, I think is going to be something folks need to be prepared for. So a little data to share on this. The U.S. nonprofit sector raised $484 billion in 2023. So a year and a half now, with the projected increase of 5 to 7% by 2025. And that increase, according to the Giving USA 2024 report, is driven by digital and hybrid event growth. So that's what we're here to talk about today is the event. But as we kind of look at big picture predictions, what do you think is kind of on the horizon?
Yeah, I love that you're tapping into the idea of consistency, right?
Yeah.
Consistency with donors, staying the course, continue moving forward.
Yeah.
And in terms of consistency, sort of my purview is the same, I think, as it's been for a very long time, and continue moving forward because we see this keep playing out and playing out. Importance of storytelling. It's critical.
Yeah.
You need to engage people in your mission and can't make assumptions about what they connect to, what they do or don't know. Stories galvanize us as human beings in a way that no other thing does.
Yeah.
The medium for that can vary, and we're going to talk about that. But storytelling at its core is how you move hearts and minds, which in mission-based work in the nonprofit sector, that's what we're looking to do.
Yeah.
Network for Good did a study and said that
We love them.
88% of donors say they feel more connected to a nonprofit's mission when they hear personal stories from those directly impacted by the cause.
Yeah.
Esoteric, theoretical, we do X, Y, and Z. Great, but show me.
Yeah.
What does that look like? How are you moving the world forward?
Yeah. Help me understand.
Help me understand it. And
Yeah.
then I also will stay consistent on the importance of gathering. And that's a very specific word. I'm not saying events.
Right.
I think events fall into that not specific sort of category of things that we don't think about. Because when we talk about events and use that word, I don't know that we're actually always talking about audience.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, the concept of gathering is taking into consideration format, and format should always be determined by audience. And so there's a more holistic idea there for gathering and how you're bringing people into space together. And we're seeing consistently the amplification that happens when people are together experiencing something versus alone.
Yeah.
And so that being sort of a foundation for what we're thinking about in terms of gathering.
Well, I think that, gathering is something that also speaks to community and turning toward each other, building relationships to each other. And ultimately, those relationships that we have with our community are the things that make us resilient in times of change. So I think it's a good segue to talk about the importance of gathering, because today we really want to focus in even tighter on that, specifically the future of fundraising events for 2025. So I have a top 10 list here I want to be able to hit on and dive into.
And we're going to go through, I want to make sure that all of that comes together as a block.
Okay.
So we're going to take a break right now
Okay.
and learn a little bit more about Elevate, because that is a tool for folks to think about. And then when we come back, we're going to dive into this top 10 list. We'll be right back.
Unleash the power of events to energize your donors and amplify your mission. Join us at the Elevate Conference in 2025, where you'll learn the essential tools for planning a successful fundraising event. Book your tickets now for March 12th and 13th. This dynamic hybrid conference, hosted at Avenue in Portland, Oregon, and streamed live for our virtual audience, will equip you with practical tools, demos, and templates that you can put to work immediately. Don't miss out. Secure your spot today at Elevate 2025. Visit elevatenonprofit.com to register now. Elevate Conference 2025 is brought to you by Swaim Strategies and the AV Department, powered by elevatenonprofit.com.
Welcome back, Fundraising Elevator. Kristin here with Sam. We are doing a top 10.
Yeah.
A top 10 of where we see fundraising events for 2025. Sam, let's kick it off. Number one,
hybrid events. I think that we're sitting in this moment right now where they are just taking off. And there was a responsiveness out of the pandemic around, hey, virtual kind of worked for some of our audience members. Let's try hybrid. And then there was sort of a comfort zone where folks went right back into what they've previously done. And I think for the first time now, people are looking up and thinking about, okay, how do we take what we learned during the pandemic and take what we've always done and kind of merge them together for the best of both worlds? So hybrid offers a couple of benefits. One, it's a low-cost way to create a much bigger audience. But it also is a way to build resiliency. So, if we get news of more health concerns, if we have news of, natural disasters, you can easily say, we're going just with the virtual broadcast content, but we don't have to change anything. You can shrink your audience size and not have to change anything. So I think hybrid is really the solution, but it's also something that we're seeing that's trending up.
Yep.
Additionally to that, donors are talking about this. So donors are addressing that for them, if they're going to be involved in a nonprofit, they do not want long coffee dates. They do not want phone calls that say, can I interrupt your dinner and talk to you about our mission?
Right.
They want accessibility and flexibility. Give me quick, fast ways to make an impact. And so hybrid creates an access point.
Yep. Let's frame this up for folks, because I do think hybrid is one of those things that has become buzzier.
Oh, sure.
And there's definitely vantage points about what that is and or is not. And so I'd love if you'd take a minute when you say hybrid, what are we talking about?
Okay, really basic.
Yep.
You put all of this planning work into gathering people for your annual fundraising gala.
Right.
We're just going to broadcast that.
Yeah.
That's the simple thing. So if you have ever participated as a home viewer with your bucket of popcorn on the couch and watched the Academy Awards, the Grammy Awards, the American Country Music Awards, the Hall of Fame, there are so many activities, any Super Bowl game, any athletic game, any time that you have something happening where there is an audience in real life, in person, and an audience at home, that's a hybrid event, really simply. Once upon a time, I think it was really expensive to be able to add that broadcast element, but live streaming has made that so much more accessible. So there's a couple things you need in order to successfully have a hybrid event. One, you have to have a good production team that can partner with you on the live stream.
Yep.
You shouldn't have to worry about, is it working? Is it feeding out? Can folks get to it? Additionally, easy access to it. You want folks to be able to easily tune in. You don't want login, complicated systems, password protection, layer after layer after layer that at some point folks at home say, I'm not participating.
Right.
It should be as simple as pick up the remote and turn on the TV, but in this case, maybe go to a website to see it. And then third is the most successful form of hybrid event we've seen for fundraising is integrating a fundraising ask for the home audience.
Yep.
And for that, you need a software tool, but most auction platform tools now have a hybrid option where folks can text to give or click to give or donate by scanning a QR code.
Yep.
That's it. That's a hybrid event, really simply.
So you are considering multiple audiences.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that can look like in your storytelling and other pieces. Classy did a report that the hybrid event model is here to stay. It allows organizations to bridge the gap between physical and virtual audiences, reaching a wider, more diverse donor base. And I think, when we're making that argument for, it's building a space for everyone to be able to come into. And that's very, very different than the very sort of old school traditional gala with a capital G, right? This can look very different, and you can reach different spaces and tell different stories.
And I think
and create access. Hopin did a Future of Virtual Events report in which they found that 83% of event organizers plan to host hybrid events in 2025. 88%.
Even weddings are going
Even
hybrid.
weddings.
Yeah.
And they are citing increased reach and engagement as key benefits.
Yeah.
So hybrid. Number 2, let's talk virtual.
Okay, number 2. So I think virtual events are going to kind of continue on. And I think that we all went to a virtual space because we had to.
No choice.
No choice. Then our gatherings stopped being as frequently virtual, but we still have virtual meetings. We're still in Zoom meetings all day. We're working in a hybrid model of like work from home. And what we're discovering is those organizations that retain some sort of virtual event element were able to actually keep their donors more involved, more invested, because it gave them another access point. So I have 2 examples of what this looks like right now. Really simply, it can be something like a podcast or a webinar. So a donor webinar once a month. We have an organization that has very successfully continued to host. Come into a conversation with us. We're going to give you highlights this month about the work we're doing, the impact it's having, and what our current needs are. And every month, donors get invited to attend. It's a Zoom meeting with the CEO. But that is giving donors the option to connect in a very accessible way. People are tuning in while driving. They're tuning in their lunch break. So donors are able to connect in a very simple way.
Love that. 2024 Nonprofit Trends Report from Classy.
Okay.
Says that virtual fundraising events continue to grow and that 46% of organizations are reporting that they plan to host a virtual or hybrid event in 2025.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these are a lot of different numbers and people are going to start blurring over, but I'm hoping what they're seeing here is this 46% number, the last 88% number of planners who are considering hybrid events. Like, this is on the table as a consideration. And it should be a consideration first before you say no versus like just blanket, no, this isn't happening.
Yeah.
A donor survey by One Cause found that 70% of participants preferred virtual events because they were more convenient and flexible. I mean, people are demanding this now.
Yeah.
We're seeing it everywhere. It's rewiring how we work.
Yeah.
It's rewiring how we home. It's rewiring everything in between. I am unclear why people think that donors are not the same and their experience for gathering and participating in your organization does not also fall under that umbrella.
Yeah.
This One Cause found that this trend is expected to continue into 2025, particularly as younger generations engage more in giving. And we have some numbers in a little bit too, talking about some of that generational engagement and how to attract that. Because I think that's the big question for a lot of fundraisers.
Yeah.
How do we engage people? And when you, for me, audience, you have to consider your audience, and your audience is not a monolith.
Yeah.
Your donors are not a monolith. So you need to figure out how to go where your donors are and how they're taking in and interacting in the world. And virtual and hybrid events are a piece of that.
I mean, the gala model was really designed, and thrived at a time where the boomer generation was really giving, and there was a lot of transactional giving involved in that model. And over time, we have seen roadblocks where we've seen giving drop, we've seen participation drop, we've seen access drop. And a lot of that has to do with generational shift. So as we're seeing younger donors, let's move our model to meet where they're at. And that's why I think hybrid and virtual are going to be two hotspots. Okay, so let's dive into number 3. So a lot of times organizations dive into their event plan by talking about what's our party going to be? What's our theme going to be? And number 3 for me is I think we're going to see more experiential and mission-based themes and experiences. So this is really a shift away from, the food bank that is hosting a casino night.
You bet.
Or the housing team that is working on low-income housing hosting a circus theme event. And this is really moving more into, we are going to focus our event on how we collectively can build more homes. We're going to focus our event on how we can collectively feed more people.
Yeah.
So the theme is getting more specific to your mission. So if you're teaching kids, how do you make sure that every element showcases the impact you have, showcases what you do, brings your philosophies of the classroom into your philosophies of your event? A couple of things. If you are an international organization where you are raising funds in one location but providing a service in another, it's hard for your donors to experience your work. We're seeing a lot more of those organizations integrate VR, virtual reality, where you can walk alongside of a care provider, where you can go and see what the impact of a well being dug is. So VR and AR, augmented reality, are 2 tools that we're starting to see integrated into fundraising events. Lots of video storytelling where you get to actually see the work of the organization. But even more, we're seeing galas start to integrate things like, we're going to give you a volunteer opportunity at this gala, or we're going to immerse you in the work of our organization during this event. We had a food bank that identified how much the average household in our community had for food shopping and gave every guest that came in a grocery bag and a budget. And they had to pick items off the shelf and see how close or how far from the budget they were as they came in. So there was like a faux grocery store setup and a little gamification that was happening to get them immersed into mission.
Yeah. And I think what's great about that is that you're utilizing these pieces to do some of your storytelling lift. And when we think about adult learning styles, not everyone gets the full 360 degrees of information when they read it or when they hear it from a talking head on the stage. There is something sticky about immersive experiences that also engage emotional levels potentially in a different way. And so I think it's a really great way for people to start thinking about how can we have people experience our mission in the same way. You're in the work every day.
Yeah.
You're moved. You love it. You're there because we all know it particularly isn't for the high, insane amounts of pay and unending vacation buckets, right? Like you're there because of your commitment to this cause. Bringing folks into what that looks like for you can really connect them.
Yeah.
A 2024 report by Eventbrite found that 64% of nonprofit event planners tend to incorporate experiential and interactive elements into their events by 2025. They include live donor engagement experiences, storytelling, VR, immersive installations, which enhance the emotional connection to the mission.
Yeah.
The other thing to think about is if you're not on this train, you're not on this train, but other folks are. And so when people are having experiences of missions and maybe not that same experience of your mission, not that you have to be like the Joneses, but just to think about that all of storytelling is augmenting and thinking about where you intersect with that and how you're going to utilize that is important. One cause found that this trend is particularly strong among younger generations, as we would expect. 80% of Gen Z donors expressed a preference for events where they can directly interact with the cause through storytelling, interactive exhibits, or live demonstrations. So again, I think it's a combination of how they're in the world and this mirroring that so that it feels like an extension of the language they speak and how they move through the world and take in information. So I think we really have to start to consider that and what that looks like for our storytelling and missions.
I think if you are in the middle of your gala planning right now and you have not thought about how to integrate your mission and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I show this service we provide or show the work we do? Call us. Let us brainstorm with you because I think sometimes just a small demo, a small example, a small integration. One of the favorite ones we talk about so frequently is where our furniture bank friends who indicated that silverware was such a need for folks who had been recently rehoused. When we served dinner, we served it without silverware so that we could start in a moment of realization when folks had their soup put in front of them and they couldn't find their spoon. We welcomed everyone and asked them if they noticed something that was missing.
Yeah.
And then told the story of the impact that silverware has on the client base that they're going to raise money for tonight. So simple ways we can help you. Also, we'll link in the show notes to an episode with Sammy Bliss, who is an experiential marketing expert who's talking a lot with us about how to integrate that experience and what kind of creates an experience that lasts for donors. So
I love that.
All right, number 4, your favorite and mine, storytelling. Storytelling is really the magic key. I think that we used to see events long, long ago, and if you're still doing this, I want you to break this cycle, where we had speaker after speaker after speaker on our stage, and none of them were telling our story. This is your big fundraising event. This is your big night. You have to be able to put your organization in the middle of that. You have to tell your story. And I think that if nothing else, that needs to be a critical benchmark piece of your program, of your mission. Clear away some of the extra, get rid of some of the extra honorees or some of the keynote speakers or some of the like board member thanks.
Or put them later if you have to.
Yeah, but focus on your story. Help people understand what you do. So I think over gimmicks and themes, your story is the centerpiece of your fundraising event.
It's good enough.
Yeah.
It matters enough.
Yeah.
Have confidence that your story will move hearts and minds.
Yeah.
And also remember, I'm going to keep harping on the audience piece. Not everybody at your gathering, whether they're in the room or joining you on a broadcast, know who you are and what you do. And if your organization is doing its work, it's continuing to evolve.
Yeah.
So year over year, what that impact looks like, what those stories of impact look like, they continue to evolve.
Yeah.
Bring your donors along. Don't just tell them the same story over and over and over.
Yeah.
Show them. Yeah. Show them the breadth and growth of your work. In an echo of that one cause piece we were talking about earlier, there's a millennial impact report by Achieve that says that 75% of millennials and 80% of Gen Z say they are more likely to attend a fundraising event if it offers a unique experience that connects them directly with the nonprofit's mission.
Yeah.
And I want to argue that one of those is compelling storytelling. And that can be from the stage, it can be from a video, but it can also be experiential. And I think all of those are storytelling in that way. Also, Classy did a state of modern philanthropy and says that 72% of donors say they are more likely to give when a cause uses video storytelling on social media, which is the how. And we have talked over and over and over, and we'll put a link in about video storytelling and what that looks like and why that's important. It hits on so many buttons, but video then becomes this portable, amazing thing that you can take out of the room.
Yeah.
And it creates, if you're in a hybrid space, when you're showing videos, it brings your virtual and your in-room audience together in a common experience where, your in-room audience is experiencing live speakers that your virtual experience is watching online.
Yeah.
But when you play a video, they're both united in sort of how they're seeing that and taking that in. And it actually creates an intimacy with your virtual audience in a really amazing way. It's kind of that one-on-one, that story unfolding before them. So I think video storytelling is also a magic key that I really, if you're not using it already, you're behind.
Yeah.
Absolutely behind.
I agree. So in the same vein, though, of storytelling and themes that are mission-centered, we're seeing that same evolution is happening in our auctions.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. Auctions are really becoming less transactional and more transformational. We saw a giant decline of the silent auction. It almost has gone away, in fact, with the exception of schools, where we tend to see that parents have a little bit more of a transactional relationship with the school because they also maybe give in lots of other ways to the school. So getting stuff becomes a benefit. Every other nonprofit out there, we have seen dropping their silent auctions, right? It's a lot of time, and it's one of the lower dollar amount revenue yields. And post-COVID, we found that people wanted to connect to each other, and the silent auction kind of got in the way of that, right? So silent auctions, goodbye. If you are still doing a silent auction, rethink and reevaluate how to repurpose that revenue, because the online auction took off. And the online auction is a way that even if you aren't doing a hybrid event, you can reach a much bigger auction audience in an online auction. But the live auction elements that are selling the best are those that center relationships and mission. So I used to sell most frequently trip for two to Tahiti, trip for two to Napa. Now, what we're selling at the highest dollar amount most frequently is you're going to gather with 10 other donors and have this shared experience together, hosted by the organization at another date and time, where you're going to be able to have dinner at the location with this private chef. That idea of we're continuing this relationship and we're going to continue to build this relationship with people who work at the organization in a more intimate experience, that's selling much higher. But also, if you can integrate people into your mission and give them a connection to your mission, that also is something that is selling really, really well. So, perhaps you are a school and you're going to be invited as the auction package, you get to be principal for the day. That idea of integrating people directly into your mission, it helps them feel more connected. And honestly, it's more interesting right now and is selling better in the auction format.
Well, and it has, I want to sort of underscore that tail, T-A-I-L, of storytelling that continues long after the event. But what's more than that, people are actually purchasing an opportunity to get solicited again at a later date, right? Like that's what we're actually talking about, is that you're engaging some donors who are telling you with their money, I am very interested in having dinner with your executive director. Yes, it may have this amazing chef, and that's part of the reason why I'm there too.
Right.
But I know when I show up to that, you are likely going to talk about the organization and your mission.
Yeah.
So you can continue cultivating me. I just want to make sure that's clear for folks. One Cause found that 65% of nonprofit organizations are planning to integrate online or hybrid auctions into their fundraising strategy in 2025.
For good reason.
I think that's really, really something to think about. And if you're not there and not doing it, you're missing it.
Yeah. So I think to recap, We've gone through 5 points so far. First one, hybrid. Second one, virtual is going to continue. Third one, experience, like immerse people in your mission, make your events a mission-centric. Fourth, storytelling. That's a way to make your event mission-centric. Fifth, auctions that are continuing that relationship. There's a theme in all of those, in that all 5 of those have to do with continuing to build relationship. And if you continue to build relationship, bring community together, create moments of mutual aid together, that is going to make for a much more resilient organization over time. So there's a theme in there. But as we move on to number 6, I think that this kind of comes together here with that idea of personalization and designing for purpose. So the 2 Ps, personalization and purpose. There are so many tools right now that are giving us the ability to do things like segment our audience, communicate with them differently. We have a hybrid event coming up where we're able to segment our audience and speak to those who are attending in person and those who are attending virtual. We're also able to segment our audience and talk to those who have been a part of the event for a long time about what's coming back and what's going to stay the same and what they can expect to see like they did 3 years ago. And then to our newer donors, we're able to talk about what's different about this event, what's a standout about this event. So personalized communication, but also personalizing your event to your audience. So you talked about this at the beginning, that we should be thinking about designing our event for our audience. And once upon a time, I have seen organizations do what I call the spray marketing campaign, where they design a really cool party and they hope people come and they just put it out in the world. And it's social media and it's posters on the wall and it's flyers on cars and they hope people come. Instead, taking a look first before you begin your plan and looking at who do we want in the room and designing for that oftentimes can be a very quick path to your end goal. Example of this, a lot of our big gala organizers that are, nonprofits that are raising $500,000, $2 million in their event, they are thinking about who the 300 most important people to come are by identifying the 30 key stakeholders that are hosting tables. They then call those 30 people and they put their effort into getting those 30 people to host tables. A table of 10 turns into 300 people in the room really fast. So designing your event with that particular purpose in mind, of thinking about who our key stakeholders are and putting our effort there. I think that's going to be a way that organizations can really maximize their event planning timeline too.
I have never attended an event that was advertised to me. I have only ever attended an event because someone asked me to come and sit at their table.
Now, when you're thinking about who your audience is and you've got your audience confirmed and you're thinking about the purpose of this event, coming back to your mission, that can then, if you can define the purpose, what we are trying to achieve, who's in the room and what we're trying to achieve, if you can define that, you can make every decision from that place. And I think that that's a key element for folks to think about. Instead of just plan a good party and hope people come, instead, name our purpose. What is possible for our mission if we gather these 300 people together? What are we trying to achieve? What do we want them leaving the room talking about? What do we want them to experience? Design from that perspective. It will answer all your questions.
One of my favorite events, considering these principles, is Taste for Equity. And Taste for Equity's mission is to elevate BIPOC and LGBTQ plus practitioners and organizations doing the frontline hard work in our community. And so they wanted to put on this huge kick-ass event that does that, that celebrates that. Instead of just having the event celebrate that via honorees, they decided to make it a part of every piece of planning and every part of the event. And what I mean by that is this: every vendor they hire for that event is a part of those communities. Small LGBTQ plus BIPOC owned businesses are catering, event planning, all designing, photographers,
servers, entertainers,
musicians, all of the pieces, right? The honorees clearly are part of that, but also they wanted the night, the purpose was for all of these people on the front lines doing this work to be able to come together and be in community and celebrate one another.
Yeah.
Talking heads on a stage didn't achieve that for them.
Yeah.
So we designed a program that was very, very tight and short so that the rest of the evening could be about celebration and being in community together. Every aspect of that event is tied together with purpose. And folks leave going, that was amazing.
Yeah.
And yet they're very clear on what's happening, why they were there, what they were a part of, all of those pieces, but they leave feeling amazing versus drained, which is exactly the purpose of that event, to have people feel invigorated about their work, seen, honored.
Yeah. It was choices like a family style dinner. So people had to pass their platters, more social time for people to connect to each other. Also, one of my favorite things is they have a dance party afterwards. Instead of just having a DJ, that DJ actually leads coordinated, group dances so that you feel a part of something. So every element that they choose has to do with that idea of creating that connection and celebrating that community.
Yep. Bloomerang found that donors now expect a more personalized experience.
Yeah.
And so whether that's through tailored donation asks, customized event content, or AI-powered recommendations, donors have an expectation for us that we need to lean into. And, I think this can come down to thinking about segmentation prior to the event and who you're sending information to and what's customized for them and what that looks like. And I hear some groans. I hear them right now. People are like, I'm lucky I got out information in advance of my event. Totally. And also people are expecting this. We have to start to lean into that space. We quickly become irrelevant if we're not meeting folks where they are. And again, thinking about your audience and thinking about what you want them to do. They need the information to be able to do that and to feel like they're seen and heard and a part of something, right? Google's 2024 Digital Marketing Trends for Nonprofits highlights the importance of personalized marketing, showing that 79% of donors are more likely to give if the outreach feels personalized. And for an event, personalization of an invite and people seeing themselves in that invite, they actually feel like they have the potential of being a part of something by saying yes.
I mean, I can tell you just from my own perspective, I last fundraising season received an invite that I saw via social media. I had received an email invite. I had received a actual printed invite. And then I just got a quick call with a voicemail that said, hey, Sam, I'm just checking in to make sure that you saw the invite and that you're planning to be there. We would really miss not having you if you weren't able to make it. That was it. Ticket purchased. It's like that personalization says to me, I am seen and I am valued for what I contribute to this organization.
And it's noticed when I show up. It's also noticed when I don't show up. And that's critical for folks to feel like they're a part of something.
Well, doing that can feel daunting, I think. But there are tools now that can help us. So that takes me to tip number 7 or trend number 7 that we're really seeing, which is the integration of AI tools and technology into our fundraising events. Our analog events of or silent auctions with paper and long gatherings in big ballrooms, I think have really transformed by the integration of technology, utilizing live streaming, but also all of our platform partners, our friends at Greater Giving who support us, all of the platform partners that have online auction platforms or text-to-give platforms have integrated AI tools so that we can better segment our audience, do quick follow-up. One of the quickest, best follow-ups that I have seen for organizations who are utilizing a tool like Greater Giving is the night of the event to have a pre-written message and to grab your executive director and have them come sit down and put a quick personalized note in there so that by the time the donor gets home, they have an email that says, wow, we're sitting here basking in the glow of tonight. So glad you were able to join us. I wanted to share with you the impact you had. Tonight, collectively, we were able to do A, B, and C. You can have that 99% drafted and have a real reaction added, like, oh my God, that you throw in there and send out so that that is in their inbox when they go lay in bed and start scrolling through their email messages. The other thing we're seeing when it comes to technology is the use of social media before, during, and after. Short form videos, we're seeing invitations transform into short form direct-to-camera videos to drop in text to donors. We're seeing social media promotions in short form video. We're seeing recaps of events in short form video. So that integration of utilizing your cell phone to create social media content and create a little buzz about your event. We're also seeing the integration of peer-to-peer fundraising. So online tools that are traditionally in an online format, like a GoFundMe account, now being integrated into the event to mobilize a little bit of peer-to-peer pressure from folks in attendance to gain fundraising access to folks not in attendance, but also utilizing those tools to kind of create an access stream for micro donations. So perhaps someone couldn't afford to buy a ticket, but wants to support, that peer-to-peer campaign gives them a chance to do it. And finally, AI is integrating a lot of Charity Match into your CRM tools. And what Charity Match does is it looks for who in your donor database is already really invested in other organizations like yours, so you can better understand your key biggest targets. But then it also helps you to search through your community to identify individuals who maybe are prospects that you're not talking to. So I think AI is becoming a tool that we're seeing more and more. Even if you're not using AI, I think a lot of your software platforms are using AI.
Well, and other organizations are using it. So, I think AI, people have all kinds of feels, but it's here. And, it's trying to figure out how to utilize it to amplify your impact. And AI is actually allowing for a lot of analysis in real time. For folks that maybe they can't see or don't have time to do. And so when we talk about that, what are you seeing that AI has been most integrated in event planning for?
I think the quickest, easiest integration that we've seen has been a lot of our auction platform tools have integrated AI to write auction descriptions. So if you are able to import the basics of what's been donated, a 2-bedroom cabin for a 1-week stay, or a wine package that includes 14 bottles of wine, then the AI will auto-generate a description that's more marketing friendly.
Also on that, when we're talking about personalization and how to use AI tools, HubSpot found that 82% of nonprofits are expected to adopt advanced donor segmentation strategies using AI and predictive analytics by 2025. And I think, that starts to get into weeds and sort of a bigger picture of fundraising. But we offer it here because I think it comes to bear on when you're looking at events and their potential and major donors at those events and their potential and what that is, that being able to take a wider view in an impactful, effective, streamlined way can be another way to utilize that, and folks are doing it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think that AI is also informing us a lot about who is a good match for giving. And that leads me to number 8, which is sponsorship. So corporate sponsorship is something that often is one of the big revenue buckets for fundraising events. There is an opportunity for a corporate partner or a small business to align with your mission, have their logo integrated, and have their donations help to cover the costs of producing your event. This has traditionally been one of our biggest revenue resources with fundraising events. And unfortunately, this past year, we saw a dip in it, but there is prediction that that is going to be increasing. But increasing from the perspective this year on when there is brand collaboration possible. And I think that that's the big thing is that corporations aren't super trusted right now. And people are starting to question capitalism and starting to question, I want to make choices about where my money goes based on values alignment. So how do brands show values alignment? They align with you. And so that opportunity to collaborate in a way where they can really partner with you, not just on your event logo, but in ways where they can help to feel like they are moving your mission forward, that you can see them as a valued partner, and that collaboration can kind of extend the impact of what they're able to do.
Well, and I think it's even evident in how we're defining sponsorship, right? We've always defined sponsorship as a fee for benefits. And starting to talk about it as cause-related marketing really starts to lean into a different space. And so while sponsorship trended down last year, and we have found that difference, that trend down, has been the difference between transaction and collaboration. And I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit more to that.
Yeah, we had an episode with Joe Davis with On Point, and I recommend folks click in and look at that episode. We'll put it in the show notes because she really dove into what a collaborative partnership with a corporate partner looks like. And I think that the big thing is that corporations are big businesses and you are a business. I know we call ourselves the nonprofit sector, but you are a business. And in that business, there is opportunity to hire other companies to be experts. Well, sometimes your corporate partners can collaborate you to bring you that expertise. So an example might be if you are an organization that's in the middle of a capital campaign and you are looking to raise funds to build a new building or expand your footprint in capital, a building, a land acquisition, partnering with developers and urban planners and bankers is a way for you to get experience, resources in a collaborative partnership agreement where they get to show some brand connectivity and build some goodwill, and you get experts on your team. Really simple example of this that we've seen a lot with events is they have a marketing department. So they'll take on the marketing for your event. They'll print your invitations. They'll design your press release. They'll put together your invitations because they have a graphic designer on site. You want to zhuzh up your website? They've got a website person. You need some HR advice? They've got an HR person. So sometimes just leaning on the fact that you're operating as a small business and some of these corporations have more resource that you can collaborate on to create a values alignment with each other.
But also that's a two-way street, friends. So it's thinking about, how does that look collaboratively?
Right. How does it benefit you too?
Well, how does it also benefit them? You know, if you're looking for, we need a graphic, all of these things, what are they looking to do? What are your sponsors looking to do? And quite honestly, that's a conversation.
Absolutely.
That's not a form. And so Causeway found that 85% of corporate sponsors in 2025 expect purpose-driven partnerships with nonprofits. They are looking for opportunities to connect their brand values with causes that align with their social responsibility objectives. This is not literally, I have this bucket, the first 10 people here get it. They are looking to how are we using this to further our brand and our relationships in the broader community. Sponsorship is expected to account for 40% of total fundraising revenue in 2025, which is up from 33% in 2023. So in 2 years, a 7% increase. And this is by a 2024 report from Fundraising Success. And so nonprofits are shifting their focus toward increasing revenue from sponsorships driven by the increased interest in hybrid and virtual events. So keeping in mind that increased reach of a virtual and a hybrid event also in your partnerships with sponsors offers them different benefits on the table than your one in-room event with 200 people. And those are the only 200 people that have eyes on them being there, right? And they have more opportunities in remote audiences, maybe different markets. So I think it's thinking about what that can do for you, but also what can that do for you by virtue of how can it enhance your relationships and provide opportunities for them as well.
Yeah, I think I always start a sponsor conversation with, what are your goals, right? Start to understand what they're trying to achieve. Well, that takes me to number 9, which is the importance of transparency. I think this is going to become a really buzzy term in the nonprofit sector as we're talking about transfer of wealth, as we're talking about people giving their hard-earned dollar to your cause. Transparency and reporting is going to be a key element. It is part of our donor cultivation cycle, right? A donor makes a donation and we send an annual report or we send out information about the impact that's having. We send a thank you. I think that those need to be top of mind. It often tends to be the thing people set to the side and will do later. I think it's really important right now as we live through this era and age of social media content, news feeds, algorithms, that you are in control of communicating regularly and often about the impact that a donor's gift is having. If I make a donation and I never hear from that organization again, I guarantee you I never am giving again. But if I get an immediate, here's the impact your gift is going to have, and then I get a follow-up annual report or something that shows the collective impact, I'm invested in continuing to be in that relationship. So think about after your event, quick communications that are thank yous turning into reports of transparency around impact.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to keep folks in the loop.
Yeah.
It's like, well, they know we build houses. That's what they donated to.
Right.
So no, the cycle is you talk to me about your mission in building houses. I got interested. I provided support. You need to acknowledge my support and tell me what was possible as a result of that, right? It's a cycle. It's a cyclical cycle of taking, reporting, gratitude, taking, it's I think all too often we just expect donors to know.
Yeah, it's true.
And I don't want to wait to the end of the year for an annual report, quite honestly.
No.
And it doesn't have to be hard and laborious, but just acknowledgement and continuing my connection, right? This is what cultivation's about.
Yeah.
It's being in relationship. And those touch points are about being in relationship with donors. Nonprofit Times said that 75% of donors say they are more likely to give to organizations that are transparent about how donations are used, particularly in relation to event funding and program outcomes. Clear communication about how funds raised during an event are allocated, as well as post-event reports showing the impact of the fundraising efforts. So the event itself is an event to report out on and what the impact of that is and what that looks like.
Yeah.
And who was a part of it.
Well, I think number 10 has sort of a zoom out, has a little bit more to do with just events in general. And this is something we're seeing around conferences, we're seeing in fundraising events, we're seeing in weddings, which is that people are really thinking about their environmental footprint. So we're seeing more eco-friendly events.
Yep.
And they're thinking about that donor experience or that guest experience and thinking about gamification. So number 10 for me is that there have been some sort of fundamental shifts in how events are designed. And that event design is more often centering gamification and eco design. So thinking about the fact that if you don't get a high response rate from a printed folded invite, maybe a email invite and a phone call is actually going to serve you better. Thinking about, are you creating a lot of waste with this event, or are you able to utilize a lot of recycled goods? Especially when you're talking about millennial donors and millennial and younger donors, Gen Z, Gen Alpha are very invested in the environmental impact of any type of event. The other element there of gamification is all about guest experience, and events are being designed to include a little bit more fun in the action and thinking about, if we're going to tell this story, how do we make people a part of this story? We had an organization that's a summer camp that, they're serving elementary kids, and here's a room full of adults, and they taught them the camp theme song, and everyone had a group sing along to a camp theme song that created a sense of nostalgia, but also kind of created a little activity and engagement and gamification to help people feel connected to the mission. But
Also now they're in the fold.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they
especially
belong.
For adults if they've never gone to camp. Now they're like, oh, I know a camp song. But I want to underscore, when we say gamification, I'm not talking about a group game of Twister.
No.
It's not a non sequitur.
Right.
It is mission driven, storytelling connected, so that people experience your mission and action when we're talking about that. Classy, in their 2023 State of Modern Philanthropy report, revealed that events with gamified elements saw a 38% increase in donor retention.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Compared to those without. And on your green eco point, Global Trends from Blackbaud found that 44% of millennial and Gen Z donors are more likely to contribute to causes that prioritize environmental impact. And I hear you. We just gave you all of these things and all of these hats that you have to consider. Pick one, pick two, start there, and then continue through. Don't try to do all 10 of these considerations at once and thinking, we've given you the big, broad overview. I want to let people digest for a second. We're going to take a promotional break to thank some of our amazing supporters. And when we come back, we're going to just kind of do a little bit of a recap and get in the fundraising elevator.
Excellent.
We'll be right back.
Ready to take your fundraising to the next level? Need to get unstuck in your event planning? Now's your chance to connect directly with the experts behind the fundraising elevator. Book a one-on-one consulting session with Sam for strategic planning and fundraising strategy, with Kristin for your program and storytelling, or Mary for your registration and data tools. They're here to provide you personalized answers to all your event questions. Don't wait. Raise more at your next fundraising event. Book your session today at elevatenonprofit.com. You can also find the link in the show notes.
Welcome back to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. Today, we've been talking about our 2025 fundraising event projections, and I want to recap our sort of top 10 list with just a high-level overview.
Yep.
Number 1, hybrid is growing. Number 2, virtual events are still here, and they're not going anywhere.
They are.
Number 3, experiential mission-based events, themes that really immerse people in your work. Number 4, storytelling. Storytelling is the magic key. Number 5, auctions have changed and evolved and have really focused on how to use that auction as a way to keep people engaged with your work. Number 6, personalization and purpose, designing that event with something specific in mind as an outcome. Number 7, AI tools and technology, tools to help make things easier for you. Number 8, sponsorship is really turning into cause-related marketing. Number 9, transparency with our donors, reporting out regularly. And number 10, event design has changed and the fundamental aspects of greener events and more gamification. So in light of these sort of 2025 trends that we're seeing, Kristin, what do you think nonprofit event planners should really be focused on and considering?
I think, there is a lot of chatter sometimes about, to event to not event.
Right.
They are not the easiest ways to raise money.
No.
They are a lot of time and attention, but I really want to underscore that gathering matters.
Yeah.
Collecting people in a common purpose and bringing them together into community is all we have.
Yeah.
It's all we have. News cycle wise, we're sitting here in January of 2025. Every channel has the devastating Los Angeles fires on it right now. And there could be a channel of hopelessness in that. And yet everywhere I'm seeing, there is gathering together for mutual aid, coming together and filling in the gaps and getting people what they need right now, person to person, human to human, and telling stories to one another to create impact. And so bringing people together as a vehicle for impact does more than we can ever do alone. And that should underpin our events. And I think sometimes that connection, business events become business, like fundraising events become business, but really it's about collective purpose and best events. Yes, hit your fundraising goals, but unite 300 people in a mission to change a thing, to get behind a mission. That's powerful. To create impact in their community. I mean, we should be building movements, and that's what gatherings have the potential to do, is to galvanize people into a movement and do that work.
Well, and that's the juice, right? That creates hope. That creates connection. That creates some like mental health healing for folks.
Well, and that's just it. The connection to people, and to be able to feel like you have agency and can take action, that as an elevation of a mental health space for all of us is really, really critical. And so you're providing folks a space to have agency and to have their personal missions manifest in the world because they connect to your mission and can amplify their work. That's what's going on there. And then, broken record here, but stories all day long, every time, because that's what connects us. It's literally what brings our heartbeats into sync together. And when you do that, we're in partnership, we're in community, we're on the same page. And if anything was going to change the world, that's what always has and always will. And so your event is a way to do that and to make people a part of a story together. That's why. A story together. How about you?
I just love that you always bring like the hope and the heart into the work that we do in the conversation.
I'm trying.
Because I'm going straight to the checklist and the logistics.
That's
So to speak to our friends out there that need a checklist.
Yes. I love you.
I would highlight for folks that the hybrid and virtual is something to continue to build into your fundraising event plan. So that's the number one thing. It's going to make you more resilient, and it's going to make that you don't have to cancel, reschedule, change, sort of move on a dime with your event. The second thing I would say is design your mission and purpose into everything you do. If you have clarity about what that purpose is, you are able to make choices so much easier. It's a quick way to bring stakeholders on board and move through decision making and utilize your time to build relationships. Lean into technology and lean into your experts. I think that if we are talking about something you don't know how to do and you feel overwhelmed by that and you're thinking, I don't know anything about brand alignment for corporate partners, go to our website. We have webinars, tools, free trainings. We have people we can support and protect and connect you to. Look to the experts to help you in the areas that you don't know. I think that we need to find some easy buttons in a hard world right now, and that's a quick one.
You bet. Let's hop in the fundraising elevator,
right.
shall we?
Let's do it.
This was a lot to digest. We know it. There are a lot of show notes, but let's boil it down into one tip or suggestion for folks so they can continue heading up, Sam.
Okay, my biggest suggestion to continue heading up with your fundraising event is join us at Elevate.
Yes.
So the Elevate conference is really designed to bring all those experts into one room, and you can join from anywhere because we're going to follow our own advice. It's a hybrid event. And we really designed that event for the goal of bringing all the experts to you in one place. So go to swaimstrategies.com, check it out. It's in March. It's not too late to register. We want you there, whether you're tuning in virtually or you're joining us in person. But we're going to give you a 2-day deep dive into really making your fundraising events make the most impact for your organization.
Yep.
How about you? What's your one tip for everyone to continue heading up?
Yeah, I think it's that, and I mean both sides of this. We need to keep bringing people together because we need community right now. So that's bringing people together in community for your organization, but also you as the helpers need to bring people together to be your community right now. This is hard work under hard external circumstances. We're all doing more with less, and you need to figure out how to fill your cup and have people around you that are supporting that. So, throw a dinner party at a folding table in your driveway with people you love and trust and tell stories to one another, but also maybe throw a dinner at a folding table in a ballroom and invite donors that want to take action somewhere. We all have energy, right? Let's give people a time and a place to funnel that, and in that create community together.
I heard once that the antidote to burnout is community. Yeah. And I think that that's true. When you get to be in a room full of people that are there supporting your cause, and you get to see all those paddles go up and all that giving happen, it's a really quick way to feel reinvigorated about your work. So
and I believe that as an introvert. Yeah. I think we all need that in some way, and really leaning into that will help drive so many of the other pieces.
I couldn't agree more. Well, so with that, let's keep bringing people together. We invite you to join us at Elevate, the Fundraising Event School Conference, March 12th and 13th. You can attend for 2 days, either in person or virtually. We have great speakers, teachers, trainers, plus solutions for all sorts of vendor partners. It's really a chance to meet the experts and learn from some of the best. We hope that you'll check it out at swaimstrategies.com. And while you're there, we have a bank of resources for you that are free to access. And hopefully, while there's a lot of information in this particular episode, what we've given you is an episode that you can also share out with key stakeholders to help you make decision-making a little bit easier. So thank you for joining us in the Fundraising Elevator. We'll see you next week.
Take care, y'all.
The Fundraising Elevator is produced in partnership with Swaim Strategies at the studios of the AV Department. The program is produced and directed by Steve Osborne, with audio engineering and original music by Dwayne Anderson, Heidi Christensen, and Adam Breeden. Video production by Shannon Doran. Graphic design by Pendulum Creative Group. Marketing by Lisa Aragon. Support from Mary Elizabeth, Todd Campbell, John Lyles, and Andy Dowsett. And voiceover by Josh Boykin.
Friends, before we leave you, we want to ask for your help to make the podcast grow. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please like, follow, subscribe to the Fundraising Elevator. And if you're getting a lot out of the show, please share it with a friend and leave a review. These things help make sure that the podcast continues heading up. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Are you ready to engage supporters and grow your base with your own podcast? Then let us introduce you to our partners at the AV department in Portland, Oregon. In addition to delivering exceptional live event audiovisual production and videography, they also have a top-tier production studio and an expert team ready to take your content ideas to the next level. Contact the AV department to schedule a consultation and start bringing your podcast vision to life.